Hi everyone, it's me Santosh and my group project title is Nuclear Power Plant. And then my group member is Abhinash Acharya. Today I'm going to talk about the nuclear power plant. As we know, the demand of energy is increasing every day in the world. It's due to the increasing number of manufacturing companies and then increasing number of energy consumption in households like electronics, like AC, like and cooling and heating systems, and many other. Nuclear power plant comes from nuclear fission. Nuclear power plants heat water to produce steams, um, and nuclear power plants use nuclear fission process in generation of electricity and energy. It uses nuclear reactor to generate heat energy needed by by reactors to turn water into steam. The steam then rotates the generators and turbine to produce electricity. During the nuclear reaction, nuclear power plant use heat produced during the nuclear fission to heat the water, and then during the process, atoms are splitted to form smaller atoms, releasing energy. Thus, energy releasing energy in forms of heat, and those heatings the hot water into steam, and steams rotate the turbine and produce the electricity. Fission takes place inside the reactor of nuclear plant. And then at the center there is a fuel called uranium fuel. Nuclear power plant use uranium as the dominant fuel. Just now I recently talked about uranium cause fission reaction to produce heat needed for driving turbines within the power plants. Nuclear power plants have close similarities with coal-fired power plants in terms of production and supply, though they have different safety measures. Yeah, both of the in both of the cases, the water is heated and converted into steam, and steam rotate the turbines and produce electricity. So, in that case, we can compare nuclear energy and coal-fired power plants. Okay, then now let's talk about the problems about the nuclear power plant. Like there are many advantages and disadvantages of nuclear power plant. As we know, like nuclear power plant have like is very risky. Like it have to be like safe. It have to be safe from emitting the harmful rays to the environment. So environment activities are striving to ensure that there is reduced use of nuclear energy due to environmental concerns. The other source of energy has foreseeable future, but there is a need for mitigation measures to help in reducing the possible impacts that comes with the scarcity of energy. There is a need for containment measures in place to help in addressing decreasing energy supply. Okay, now we can see there is a water that goes into the nuclear power plant, the cold water, and then inside the control rods there is a reactor, and there is a nuclear fuel in which the atoms are splitted to form smaller atoms releasing energy in form of heat. So hot water is cold water turns into steam, and there is a steam generator, and then the steam passes through the pipes rotating the turbine, and then the generator produces the electricity and that we use in our household. So the nuclear reactor turns water into steam that will then drive generator and turbines to produce energy. uh, the current nuclear energy consumption is at 11% of world electricity energy. Power plants have steam generation, whereby the steam production cuts across all nuclear power plants. The nuclear power plant has cooling towers that emit waste into the atmosphere. Like these are some of the drawbacks. Like it's in this because it releases the waste materials to the atmosphere. That's very low comparing to different sources, but actually is harmful for the living creatures. Okay, what's the problem statement? Let's talk about the problem statement. Environment activities are striving to ensure that there is a reduced use of nuclear energy due to its environmental concerns. The other source of energy has a foreseeable future, but there is a need of mitigation measures to help in reducing the possible impacts that comes from the scarcity of energy. There is a need for containment measures in place to help in addressing decreasing energy supply. Okay, let's talk about the methodology. The possible risks of deploying nuclear energy leads to slow adaptation. Innovative nuclear energy system INS will help in enhancing nuclear power plants as it makes it a safer source of energy. The need for sustainable energy means that nuclear energy remains inevitable. So, like if we follow the innovative nuclear energy system approach, then of course, like nuclear power plant one day will be the very safe source of electricity that we use in our household. And the danger and possible risks behind the deployment of nuclear energy is a key factor that hinders its adaptation. The research covers how to undertake the screening of INS so that the users can benefit from the use of nuclear energy. Like there is a picture describing everything about the nuclear safety of the nuclear power plant. I have probably done a research on the topics. The assessment of the figures above on the side shows that the overall structure of the company is technology, infrastructure, and operational sections. The nuclear plant above has both the mining and milling component as well as processing facilities. The acquisition of nuclear energy, the design of nuclear power plant, as well as the equipment installation aligns the environmental regulations. Innovative nuclear energy system INS will prove to be a vital approach as the demand for global energy increases. Okay, now let's talk about what's the current situation of nuclear power energy in United States and in the world. Okay, let's talk about United States. As of October 31st, 2020, there were 56 commercially operated nuclear power plants with 94 nuclear reactors that is located in 28 states. And then like 20% of the US total energy comes from nuclear power energy. And nuclear power energy have like most of the countries in the world like they use nuclear energy as the main source of energy. For example, the US uses 20% of the total energy comes from nuclear energy. France has 70% of the total energy comes from nuclear energy. China have 5% of the total energy that comes from nuclear energy. And Russia have 18% of the total energy that comes from nuclear energy. Likewise, South Korea have 25% of the total energy that comes from nuclear energy. And then like there are many disadvantages, like there are many accidents in the nuclear power plant that happens in the history. Like some of them is that happens due to that earthquake in Japan, that is in March 2011. That is called Fukushima nuclear disaster. This is the worst, one of the worst nuclear disaster that happens in the century, and then in which 2,200 people died, and then many of the harmful rays that release in the environment. So the nuclear power plant is permanently closed. And talking back in 1986, that is in 1986 in Chernobyl nuclear disaster. That is the worst nuclear reactor in the that is happened till now, in which that happened in Kiev, Ukraine. During that time, 300,000 people evacuated the place, and then 4,000 people have died according to the report released by the UN. Finding and observation. Okay, I'm going to talk about the findings and observation. INS comparative assessment helps in enhancing the productivity of nuclear energy power plant. Understanding the overall setup of nuclear plants help in improving the nuclear energy productivity. The approach tends to change the overall perception regarding the use of these types of energy to counter the rising demand of energy across the globe. And then talking like me now recently in the present context, talking about the present context, like there are like rocket also starting using the nuclear energy as the fuel to travel to the space. And then recently launched NASA's Mars rovers Perseverance also uses nuclear energy as as a source of energy in the Mars. So not only for prison, it looks like for the future there are going to be like rockets that will power from the nuclear reactions, like nuclear power energy. And then maybe soon like the car or maybe the electricity that we use in the house, like most of the electricity produced might be the nuclear power energy. Just we need to be confirmed that like we need to find the best way like to make it safe for the environment, for us, for the people across the globe. Yeah, and then during the observation I have included many different references that I've um, uh, been through and that I've included in the presentation. Yeah, of course. I learned a lot during the research that I did in the nuclear power plant topics. Always, like I was interested to do the research in this topic, so I requested the professor at the last to change my topic, and I did. It was everything. I think I did well. I hope everything goes well. Thank you for having. We have a guest. Thank you.